Hey friend, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast for women who want to learn how to live an intentional life or build their creative business. I'll be giving you my very best business tips, bringing you interesting guests, giving you a daily dose of Jesus, and I'm committed to always keeping it real. Grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. I'm so honored that you're here. Well, hello everyone. This is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, and you're listening to podcast episode number 122. Where I talk about exercise and business and how the two are related. And I'm excited actually to talk to you about this. I thought about doing this podcast episode a hot minute ago, and then the truth is life got in the way. My exercise went to the heck in a handbasket. That's the bottom line. Life happened, and business exploded. We got a 4-year-old little girl who came to live with us 9 months ago. And exercise became the last thing on my list. And so we're going to kind of talk about my relationship with that and how exercise has affected my business in just a minute. So first, I want to share with you a review that was left over on iTunes, because every time you guys leave these reviews, first of all, they matter. It warms my heart, my team's heart to see these. But also, this is one of the ways we get like great podcast sponsors, and it just shows some social proof. So thank you guys. When you go and leave a review, it just makes my day. So Alicia Fletcher owns Sugar and Spice Bakery, and I love just giving your businesses a shout out. So thank you for putting your business name on your review. So she says, "Hey Jennifer, I listen to your podcast all the time. I love the advice you share. You've motivated me to not work harder, but to work smarter. Thank you, Alicia. You have no idea the impact you're making in the female world. I have shared this with all my friends. They have been motivated as well. Thank you for all you do." Alicia, thank you so much for that. Honestly, that means the world to me. And it's funny. I don't know if you guys are into Enneagram stuff at all. If you are, you should go listen to the podcast episode I did on Enneagrams. But I'm an Enneagram 3, which means like I read that and I'm like, blah, blah. I need to impact people even more. like I read that and you're like, you're so nice in saying I've impacted so many people. And I appreciate that. I really do. And thank you for reminding me, because, you know, sometimes I wonder if the work that we're doing is landing. And so thank you for that. And because there's often times when I'm like, oh, you know, I don't even know if anybody's listening. So I appreciate you so, so much. So let's talk about exercise and business. So, all right, listen, friends, I never had to work out a day in my life until I had kids. That's true. I was never, tiny in frame. I also smoked. That's right. I smoked a pack a day until I got pregnant with our oldest son, Noah. I know some of you are like trying to visualize right now. Go ahead, visualize it, Marble Light 100s. And it blows a lot of people away when I tell them that. But the truth is, my life 20 to 30 years ago looked very, very different than my life today. And there will be a time when I share more of that, maybe even in a book, not the book I'm writing now, but the next one, who knows. But so I smoked, and that obviously tends to help people stay slimmer too. And then I had kids, and then I was like, holy smokes, alrighty then. That 54 pounds I gained with Noah, eating straight mac and cheese and ho-hos and just anything that was put in front of me, isn't coming off like quite like I thought it would. And so I began to start working out by way of running. I had never been a runner in my entire life, I promise you. And so when I had Noah, I was 30 years old. And I just started jogging with him, like in a jogging stroller, and, it wasn't real consistent or anything. And then I had Easton less than 2 years later, same thing, to kind of get back down to my pre-baby weight. I just jogged until, I got back to where I was. Then we had Ava 6 years later, and same thing. But after I had Ava, I was then 36. And I found that I really needed then to start exercising just to keep my sanity. We had 3 kids under the age of 6, which I know there's so many people with kids closer in age, but I also had my decorative painting business called The Magic Brush. And exercising really helped me just to keep my sanity. It was also a great way to get me out of the house. When this was back before social media, my friends, and I know some of you you're not old enough to really remember what life was like before social media, but I can tell you what it was like as a stay-at-home mom with 3 little kids under the age of 6. There were times it was very lonely. And Mr. Magic and I have had extensive conversations just in the last 6 months. If you missed the podcast episode where he and I talk about him working with me the last year, you need to go listen to that, because we were very honest and open and transparent about the fact that I was desperately lonely when the kids were little and didn't really have, just adult conversation during the day is the truth. I would look forward to the UPS driver coming. I didn't even know the UPS driver, but just a voice of somebody other than somebody that was 3 wanting me to open their fruit snacks. And so I started going to the gym after Ava was born with my friend Shauna, and really enjoyed that. And we went several times a week for years, you guys. And then about the time that I was getting ready to turn 40, I am now 47. So anyhow, I wanted to do a triathlon for my 40th birthday. And the big hang up was that I didn't know how to swim. And so I had to take swim lessons for a year, learn how to swim, get over that, do a half triathlon, whatever. I did 2 half marathons and a triathlon all like within a year. And so, at my 40th birthday, I was feeling like snazzy. I was like, I wore a 2-piece swimsuit on my 40th birthday. The only time I've done that since I got married, just because I felt really confident and I really liked how my body looked at the time. And then about 3 years ago, I was still, active, still doing triathlons every year. I hit menopause. And so I was 44 years old when I hit menopause. And I know that some of you are going to be like, girl, it was just a couple of hot flashes. That's not menopause. Okay, my periods quit 3 years ago. Okay. And so, after all the doctor's appointments and all of the things, I was definitely in menopause. I'm still knee deep in that, hopefully nearing the end of it. But that is a lot earlier than most women hit menopause. At about the same time that I hit menopause, I also injured one of my shoulders. You have this spot in the where your shoulder kind of connects to your torso, with something right there called your labrum. And I tore my labrum. I did a partial tear on it in a 9-round workout. And it wasn't 9 rounds' fault at all. It was Pride's fault. You guys want to hear the story? Let me just tell you the story, because every 40-year-old woman listening to me right now is going to be like, oh yeah, girl, I got you. I know exactly what you're talking about. Here's what happened. So 3 years ago, I'm at this 9-round workout with a friend of mine. And if you've ever gone to 9 rounds, it's a lot of like kicking bags, punching things, basically just feeling like a badass. It's awesome. And so I was in this 9 rounds workout and we were doing tricep dips. There was a punching bag that was down on the ground. And we had to do, put our hands back on the tricep dip. And they were playing that song, You Dip, I Dip, You Dip. Do you know what song I'm talking about? And for the entire length of the song, we were to do tricep dips. And so we start doing it, right? And we're doing these dips, I'm going up, down, up, down, up, down. I'm like doing it as I'm sitting here talking to you right now on this podcast. And I was starting to get tired. But in walked this really young, cute, agile, non-menopausal group of 20 and 30 somethings. And it's, 5:30 in the morning. And I'm dipping. I'm doing my tricep dips to the glory of God, okay? And these young little chickies walk in. And they were waiting to rotate in, because that's how it works. And I'm thinking, my shoulders are on fire right now. And then here's my internal voice. This is the conversation. I'm dipping and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is hurting. And then I'm thinking, suck it up, Allwood. Look at all these young, cute chicks. You are not stopping now. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, but my shoulders are sore. And then I'm thinking, it's like my own drill sergeant. And this is really the voices in my head, by the way. And then I'm thinking, you do not stop. You represent, you 40-somethings. So I keep going, keep going, keep going. We get to the end of that workout and I think to myself, gosh, my shoulder hurts a little more than it probably should. And then the next day, because I was a fool, I went to the YMCA and was swimming laps with my friend Jackie, who is an incredible swimmer and does Ironman type things. And she has really helped me in my swimming. And so for some reason, we decided to race. Not smart when you just hurt your shoulder the day before in a 9 rounds workout. So between the two of those things, within 24 hours of each other, I found myself in an orthopedic surgeon's office getting a cortisone shot through the back of my shoulder blade to help stop the pain of a partial tear of my labrum. Why am I telling you this? I don't know. Because after that, essentially what happened is I was in menopause. I had an injury, and for the next 3 years, I have literally a lot of times pacified myself and just ate my feelings. Suddenly, I wasn't able to work out. or at least work out in the way that I had. So jogging hurt because now I have a tear in my shoulder, and that when you pull your elbows back when you run, oh my gosh, it would make me want to cry when I tried to jog. When I tried to do weights, I couldn't do anything that required me, like doing my bra strap. Oh my gosh, like buckling behind my back, buckling my bra was it was an event. It was so painful. So you don't realize how much you use certain parts of your body until you hurt them. Apparently you use your shoulders quite a bit. And so I didn't want to have surgery because everyone that I know that has had shoulder surgery has not had something good. It has not done well. And so, so I quit working out 3 years ago. I just quit. I was in menopause, my shoulders ripped. I can't run. I can't swim. Biking I could do, but my husband was way faster than me and I'm way competitive. So there's that. And so I basically just ate M&Ms and Hershey's Kisses. And, there was a year ago or so when I cut back on sugar and dropped 20 pounds, which I really needed to, and stayed there for a good 6 months. And then I went on a missions trip to Mexico. And if you've never been to Mexico and you've never had their Coca-Cola, then you don't understand how Coca-Cola in Mexico is like, I think it's what the angels drink in heaven. It's like, hallelujah. And so I was on the no sugar wagon, went on a missions trip to Mexico and got right back onto that wagon because between Coca-Cola in Mexico and then all the beans and rice, like I was right back to being a junkie. So my business exploded. I'm giving you all the excuses. And the reason I'm giving you all the excuses is because I think it's so easy for people to just shout at you to take care of yourself and put yourself on the list and, do all the things. And friends, I heard this from a million different angles. And for the past 3 years, even though I've heard it, here's what I know to be true. You will not make a change and begin taking care of yourself until you are darn good, well, and ready. And for every single person, that means something different. So I had just started taking care of myself again and trying to work out and exercise when my business exploded. And then I was like, okay, I've got to do something. So I started walking last summer, started to try to get out some workouts again. My shoulder was feeling better. And then we got Ari in September. And Ari was 4 when she came to live with us in September. We are her legal guardians. And one of the first things we did is we went and bought a jogging stroller. And I was so glad to have that back because for years with every child, I had done a walking stroller. For years, we had a double walking stroller because Noah and Easton were so little that I was walking with them both at once. And so we went and got a jogging stroller for Ari. And last summer or last fall, I got back into the habit of walking. And we were finishing off the basement over the winter. So we built me a workout room in the basement. And here we are today. So today, I have dropped about 25 pounds in the last 4 or 5 months. It's funny because I've been really working at it since the 1st of February. And it's just now that people are noticing, and that's fine. And I'd still like to lose 5 or 10 more pounds. But I have lost some of my menopause weight, and I really have kind of refound the figure that I used to have. You know how like if you've gained weight and you've let yourself get out of shape, sometimes you can look in the mirror and not recognize the person that you're looking at. You're like, but that's not how I look in the mirror right now doesn't match up with how I feel on the inside. I also don't recognize her because that's not how I'm used to looking. And I also don't like what I'm seeing in the mirror. And yet I don't know how to put things in place in my life right now to change it. And so I just want to give you a big hug if that's you, because let me tell you, friend, I get it. I get it. And if you missed my podcast episode, for those of you who are in perimenopause or in menopause, please go look up that podcast episode, and I'll have Nell put that in the show notes of what episode number that is. But I cannot believe how many people listened to that menopause episode, and also their husbands did. And so I'm super glad about that. So in the last 4 months, I have dropped some weight, which has been a really great, what do I want to say? That's fantastic. I love how my clothes are fitting. But what has really been so helpful with me getting back into an exercise routine is just managing my stress level. It's helped so much to manage my stress. And what I know to be true about exercise is this. Exercise is really a form of discipline. And discipline is something that is required in so many parts of our life, right? Like you have to be disciplined in order to keep some money in the bank and not spend it all. You have to be disciplined to actually read books to your kids at night and not just put them in front of an iPad. You have to be disciplined in making sure that you are carving out time for quiet time with the Lord during the day. Like those are all things that require discipline. And exercising, taking care of yourself, it requires discipline. And what I know to be true for me is that when I am sloppy in one area of my life, I am sloppy in many areas. Maybe you have heard that saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. And so I know for me, I hated that I had become sloppy in this part of my life in terms of just carving out some time to work out and to exercise, not even necessarily, you guys, to lose weight, but to just take care of my body, to just really take care of it, to move. I mean, it's interesting to me, you know how you hear people when they're older and they complain about pain and stuff. Well, here's what I know to be true. When I was a little bit heavier and not working out, friends, I'm telling you what, that is so true. I was stiff all the time. It hurts sometimes just to walk down the stairs. And I hated that because I don't want to be one of those people who's like, oh, getting old stinks and everything hurts. I didn't want that to be the case. And so I love that it feels better. Do you know what I mean? So I know that, I had gotten sloppy in that area and I didn't want to be sloppy there. And I know that when you're sloppy in one area of your life, oftentimes you're sloppy in other areas because discipline is like across the board. And so if you look at your life and you consider yourself to be a pretty disciplined person, the chances are, if you've got your spiritual life wired, relatively tight, and you've got your financial life wired pretty tight, and you've got your business life wired pretty tight, your personal life wired pretty tight, and then most of the time you're not going to be somebody whose physical life is completely out of whack. And I hated for me that I had these other areas that I felt like were wired tight, but I felt like my weight, like some of my numbers when I went and did like a blood screening to see where all my levels were at for blood sugar and cholesterol things, some of those things weren't good. And I'm like, I got to take control of this. I am in control of so many other areas of my life. And this is an area where I'm being sloppy. And I'm concerned that the sloppiness is going to cross over into other areas. So that for me is a huge connection when it comes to exercise and business. If you are looking to be more successful in your business and more disciplined in your business, I want you to look at how are you caring for yourself also in real life. Here's one of the things that I'm writing about in the book, and some of you have heard bits and pieces of this story, but when God asked me to do a triathlon for my 40th birthday, because it had to be God. There is no reason a woman who is 39 watching a triathlon who can't swim, and at that point had 3 little kids, would ever come up with the own idea of doing a triathlon in a lake. I mean, that's dumb. No sane woman does that. So it has to be God. And so when God gave me the idea of doing a triathlon, what God actually did is he put me in a situation where I was scared to death, where I ended up doing 9 triathlons in the next 6 summers. And every single time, you guys, I was so scared and so nervous because what I thought would happen is that after I got that first triathlon under my belt, and I thought I'd be one and done, by the way. I thought I'd be like, wham, bam, I'm done. See ya. But what actually I got addicted to was the feeling of I'm scared to death and look, I didn't die. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to jump in the lake again. Oh, by the way, I had a panic attack on every one of those 9 triathlons, but guess what? I did not die. And here's how that's carried over into my business. That same, oh my gosh, I'm so scared, but there's a pretty good chance I will not die, is how I also operate a lot of times in my business. Scared to death to get up on a stage, scared crapless to have my own conference, scared to speak in front of a huge crowd of people, scared to meet people who I feel like, how am I even, Lord, in the same room with these people? God keeps putting me in all these situations in my business that I swear to you, the only reason I'm able to say yes to them and do them is because I kept saying yes to like these weird exercise things that God kept putting in front of me, areas that I was not comfortable with. Because here's the thing, If God only gives you opportunities, this is a word for someone because this is not in my notes. If God only gives you opportunities to say yes to things that you're comfortable with, it doesn't grow you in the least. And then you're depending on your own efforts and you're not dependent on Him. And He wants that dependency on you. And so what I have seen is when He gives me an opportunity to do things in my physical life that scare the crap out of me, whether it is a half marathon, whether it is a triathlon, whatever. If I'll say yes to those things, even though I'm just scared out of my mind, and then I go ahead and do them, scared, oh my gosh, I'm done. I'm never, ever going to do that again until God brings me another opportunity to do the same thing again. That has carried over so much into my business, friends. So much, because what it has taught me is that I don't need to know all the things. I don't need to have it all together. I can count on my God to carry my butt from point A to point B, and I will not die. And oh, by the way, if I do die in the process, I'm going to heaven, so all good. And I need somebody to hear that. I need you to hear that. There is a direct correlation. For me, it's with business and exercise because I need the discipline in both, and I need to keep relying on the Lord in both things. If I rely right now on my own strength, you guys, I will go to the pantry and get a box of Ho-Hos and eat those to the glory of God. And so it's one of those things I have to continually keep giving to Him, just like I have to keep continually giving Him my business. But I'm telling you what, if you want to see yourself do things in your business that you've never done before, I want to encourage you to do something in your physical life, something that has to do with exercise that you've never done before. Run your first 5K. Guess what? You're not going to die. You may finish last, but you won't die. Very few people die in a 5K. Don't look up the statistics, but very few people do. If you want to do something big in your business, I'm going to encourage you to do something big in your personal life. Never ran in a triathlon? I hadn't either. Don't think you like running? I didn't think I did either. I thought I was just doing it to lose some weight until I found myself in my first half marathon. And then I found myself in my second half marathon. And then I had to give up half marathoning because I hurt my IT band. And I tend to be stubborn. I hurt it on mile 6 and continued running and then couldn't walk for 2.5 weeks. But I did have a PR. So listen, if you're wanting to launch a course still yet in 2019, or open up a membership group, or get yourself on TV, or if you hate the way you look on a Facebook Live, I want to encourage you to do something different in your physical life. If you've never signed up for a race, do it. By the way, you're not racing all the people out there. You're racing yourself. You're racing your times that you do practicing leading up to the race. You're racing the last 5K time you have. And you know what's interesting too, and one of the reasons God, I think, keeps bringing the exercise thing back to me is because as a naturally very competitive person, and by the way, I'm not competitive with other people, I'm competitive with myself. I push myself, I drive myself. And some of you are going to understand that, especially if you're like an Enneagram 3, you get that. And so I'm very competitive by nature with my own self. I keep doing things in my physical world, and I keep showing up in my business world. So I want to encourage you to step outside of your comfort zone. Some of you have never done a race. You're not racing against other people. Let's just see if you can get from A to B. Let's just see if you can prove to yourself you will not die. And you will not die when you launch that course this year either. I'm rooting for you. I'm excited about this. I think some of you are going to listen to this podcast. You're going to be like, eye rolling. Maybe next year. Trust me, I get it. But some of you, I hope this lands and you're like, you know what? I'm going to take her up on that. You can go ahead and give me a little virtual pinky swear right now. You're going to try something. You're going to sign up for something. You just never know. You may fall in love with it, or you may fall in love with the realization that you can do things that are harder than you ever thought that you can do. And I know that's the story of my life, and that's the story of my business. So thank you guys for letting me talk about, exercise and business today. And, the thing with exercise is we also have to be really careful not to make it into an idol. Anytime you get your worth out of something that doesn't have to do with Jesus Christ, then that's an idol. Or anytime you are being satisfied with anything that you treasure more than you treasure your relationship with the Lord, that's an idol. And so I want you to know that that is a scary place to be in also. And I think that there are some messages in the online space today and influencers who, I never want to be the judge of their hearts, but I want to make sure that we're not going into an area of idolatry with health and wellness either. But man, it's good to take care of yourself. You've got people who love you and need you. And that discipline that you use with exercise will definitely show up in other areas of your life. So bless you. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, I hope you stay creative. Bye-bye. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you're here and that you just listen week in and week out and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hey, don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, or if you're an Android user, go download the Stitcher app and you can subscribe there so that you know every single week when a new episode releases. Also, if you have any time to leave us a review, these reviews are super important in getting guests for the show and sponsors for the show. And so we'd appreciate it if you have just a second to leave us a review. That would be amazing. Thank you guys again for being here. And until next week, stay creative.